My name is Vivian Reese. I'm 31 years old. Last month, I sat at table 14 of a restaurant called Bellamy's in downtown Charleston. White tablecloths, candlelight, 42 guests gathered for my parents' anniversary dinner. My mother stood with a champagne glass giving her toast, thanking the family for coming, naming everyone who mattered to her. She named my brother, Devin. She named my sister-in-law, Kristen. She named 3 cousins and an uncle. She did not name me. When someone at the far end of the table asked why I wasn't included, my father laughed and said, "Vivian knows her place. She's always been the mistake. We just got used to her." 20 people heard it. Some of them laughed. Some of them looked at their plates. Not one person said a word. But what my parents didn't know was that the restaurant they were sitting in, the restaurant where my father had just called me a mistake in front of the entire family, belonged to me. I'd bought it 11 months earlier. Every plate they ate from, every chair they sat in, every glass they raised was mine. And they were about to find out. Before I tell you what happened that night, please like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from and what time is it there? I'd love to hear from you. Now let me take you back to where all of this began. Growing up in Charleston, I learned early that in the Reese family, there were 2 kinds of children. There was Devin, the planned one, and there was me, the accident. They didn't use that word when I was very small, but they didn't have to. The difference was built into everything. My family, Dad, Terrence, a corporate accountant who measured everything in numbers, including the value of his children. Mom, Gail, a woman who could charm an entire room while making one person in it feel completely invisible. My brother Devin, 3 years older, the firstborn, the golden boy, the one whose baby photos filled the hallway while mine were tucked in a drawer. And me, Vivian. The unplanned pregnancy that complicated their 5-year plan. The child who wasn't supposed to exist. Devin was celebrated. I was tolerated. When I was 12, I won a citywide essay competition. My English teacher called my parents personally to tell them. I came home holding the certificate, excited, hopeful. Mom glanced at it and said, "That's sweet, Viv." Then she turned to Devin and spent 45 minutes helping him with a college application essay, the same kind of writing she couldn't be bothered to acknowledge me for. Dad didn't mention it at all. I taped the certificate to my bedroom wall myself and told myself it didn't matter. Plenty of kids' parents were too busy to make a fuss. At 16, I got my first job at a local bakery. I loved it. I loved the rhythm of the kitchen, the precision of recipes, the way food could make someone's whole day better. I told my parents I wanted to study culinary arts. Dad laughed, not cruelly, or so I thought at the time. "Cooking school? That's not a real career, Vivian. Devin's going to law school. Maybe aim a little higher." Mom nodded along. "You should think about something more practical, sweetheart. Something stable." Devin got $40,000 toward his law degree. I got a pamphlet for community college left on my nightstand. I told myself they just didn't understand, that they'd come around once they saw what I could do. At 20, I graduated from a 2-year culinary program I'd paid for entirely on my own. Scholarships, tips from waitressing, and a personal loan I'd scraped together at 19. My parents didn't come to the ceremony. Devin was moving into a new apartment that weekend, and they were helping him. Mom said, "It's just a community college thing, honey. It's not like a real graduation." Just a community college thing. Not a real graduation. That was the phrase that echoed in my head for years. Not because it was the cruelest thing they ever said, but because it was the most honest. To them, nothing I did was ever real enough to matter. But the name, the word that followed me through every holiday, every birthday, every family dinner, that was something else entirely. The mistake. I don't know when it started exactly. I was maybe 8 or 9 the first time I heard it. We were at a family barbecue, my uncle's house, burgers on the grill, cousins running through the sprinkler. Someone asked my mom how far apart Devin and I were in age, and she said, 3 years. Devon was planned. Vivian was a happy little surprise. Then she looked at my father and they both laughed, and my uncle said, "You mean a mistake?" And my mother didn't correct him. By the time I was a teenager, it wasn't even a joke anymore. It was a label, an identity. Pass the salt to the mistake. Vivian's here, our beautiful little accident. At Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, every dinner at every restaurant, every gathering where someone might hear, they said it. In front of cousins, friends, neighbors. My father thought it was hilarious. My mother thought it was harmless. It was neither. And the restaurant where they said it most often, the place where this word became a family tradition, was Bellamy's. A fine dining spot on King Street that my parents had been going to for 20 years. Their anniversary dinners, Devon's celebrations, client events. Bellamy's was their place. The stage where they performed as the perfect family while I sat silently in the corner, swallowing the word mistake with every bite. 2 years ago, everything changed. Not with a bang, but with a phone call. I was 29, working as a sous chef at a high-end restaurant in Savannah. I'd spent 9 years grinding through kitchens, starting as a line cook, working my way up through prep stations and grill lines and catering companies that didn't care about my name as long as my food was flawless. I was good. I knew I was good. 3 different head chefs had told me I had a gift. One of them, a woman named Carmen Herrera, had become my mentor. Carmen was the first person in my professional life who treated me like I was worth investing in. She'd run kitchens in New York, Atlanta, and New Orleans before settling in Savannah. She was direct, exacting, and fiercely protective of the people she believed in. "Vivian," she said to me one night after service, "you cook like someone who's been trying to prove something her whole life. And you've proven it. Now stop proving and start building." That conversation planted a seed. 2 months later, Carmen called me at 7 in the morning. "Bellamy's is for sale." I sat up in bed. "What?" "The owner's retiring. His kids don't want it. It's going on the market next month. I know what that place means to you. You've told me the stories. I think you should buy it." "Carmen, I don't have that kind of money. You have $60,000 in savings. I checked with Marcus at the bank. You'd qualify for a small business loan. And I'll put in $40,000 as a silent partner. Not charity, an investment. You're the best chef I've ever trained, and I don't say that lightly." My hands were shaking. "You're serious?" "Dead serious. This is your moment, Vivian. Don't let it pass because you're still hearing your father's voice in your head." That line hit me so hard I couldn't speak for 10 seconds. She was right. Every time an opportunity appeared, I heard it. The laugh, the word, mistake. It had become the filter through which I processed every good thing, always waiting for someone to tell me I didn't deserve it. Carmen saw through that. She'd been seeing through it for 4 years. I made the decision that same morning. I called Marcus at the bank, filed the loan application within a week. By the end of the month, I was sitting across from Bellamy's retiring owner, a kind man named George Ashford, signing papers that would transfer ownership of the restaurant to me. The purchase price was $310,000. My $60,000 in savings, Carmen's $40,000 investment, and a $210,000 SBA loan. Monthly payments I could manage if I ran the business right. And I intended to run it right. Over the next 11 months, I rebuilt Bellamy's from the inside out. New menu, modern Southern with influences from every kitchen I'd ever worked in. New staff, people I handpicked from Savannah and Charleston, cooks and servers who cared about the craft. New energy. I kept the bones of the restaurant, the white tablecloths, the candlelight, the warmth, but I made it mine. It wasn't easy. The first 3 months were brutal. I worked 18-hour days, 7 days a week. I slept on a cot in the back office more nights than I care to admit. There were moments I thought I'd made a terrible mistake, and the irony of that word was not lost on me. Month 2, our walk-in refrigerator died. $7,200 to replace. I didn't have it in the budget. The old me would have panicked. would have called my parents, begged for help, accepted whatever humiliation came with it. Instead, I called Carmen. We worked out a payment plan with the supplier. We made it work. Month 4, a local food critic wrote a lukewarm review. Said the menu was ambitious but inconsistent. I read it 6 times. Then I adjusted the dishes he'd criticized, retrained my line on plating, and invited him back 3 weeks later. He came. He wrote a second review. This time the word he used was exceptional. By month 8, Bellamy's was turning a profit. Not a big one, $4,200 that first profitable month. But it was mine. Every dollar earned honestly, every plate sent out with care, every guest who left smiling. Revenue by month 11, $83,000 monthly, staff of 14, a waiting list on weekends, a feature in Charleston magazine calling Bellamy's the most exciting revival on King Street. My parents had no idea. They hadn't asked about my career in years. They assumed I was still working someone else's kitchen, still the sous chef, still the daughter who hadn't aimed high enough. They continued booking their anniversary dinner at Bellamy's, same table they'd always had, table 14. The hostess, my hostess, called me when the reservation came in. "There's a Reese party, table for 20, Saturday the 15th. Should I flag it?" "No," I said. "Seat them like any other guest. I'll handle the rest." My parents arrived that Saturday evening in their best clothes. Devin and Kristen beside them, a parade of aunts and uncles and cousins filling out the reservation. Champagne was ordered. Appetizers were served. My mother stood to give her toast. She thanked Devin for being the family's pride. She thanked Kristen for giving them a grandchild. She thanked Uncle Richard for flying in from Atlanta. She thanked the restaurant for the beautiful setting. She did not thank me. She did not mention me. I was sitting 4 seats from the end, and she looked past me like I was part of the furniture. Then came the question from my cousin Elaine. "Gail, you didn't mention Vivian." My father jumped in before my mother could respond. That's when he said it. The line I'd heard 1,000 times, delivered with the same casual cruelty he'd perfected over 3 decades. "Vivian knows her place. She's always been the mistake. We just got used to her." Scattered laughter. My uncle chuckled. Devin smirked into his wine glass. I set my napkin on the table. I stood up slowly. The room didn't go quiet yet. People were still chatting, still eating. But the people nearest to me noticed. Elaine noticed. "Actually," I said, and my voice was calm, calmer than I expected. "I'd like to say something." Conversations tapered off. 20 pairs of eyes turned toward me. For 31 years, I've sat at tables like this and listened to that word. Mistake. I've heard it at Thanksgiving, at Christmas, at birthday dinners I was barely invited to. I've heard it so many times that for a long time I believed it. My mother's smile was frozen, uncertain. My father leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "But here's what I need you all to know." I looked around the room at every face. This restaurant, Bellamy's, the place where you're sitting right now, eating food from my kitchen, drinking wine I selected, sitting at tables I chose. This restaurant is mine. I bought it 11 months ago. I am the owner. Silence. Complete, airless silence. My mother's champagne glass tilted slightly in her hand. My father's arms uncrossed. Devin's smirk vanished. "The mistake you've been laughing about for 3 decades now employs 14 people. She runs a business that earned over $800,000 in its first year. She was featured in Charleston magazine. She rebuilt this place from the ground up with her own savings, her own work, and the support of people who actually believed in her." I reached into my bag and pulled out the framed magazine feature. Set it on the table in front of my father. "That's the article. There's a photo of me in the kitchen. The headline reads, 'Chef Vivian Reese, Building a Legacy on King Street.' You can keep it. Consider it a gift from your mistake." My father picked up the frame. His hands were trembling. He read the headline twice. Then he looked up at me, and for the first time in my entire life, I saw something I didn't recognize on his face. It wasn't pride. It was shame. My mother tried to recover. "Vivian, we never meant… You know we love… You called me a mistake 5 minutes ago, Mom, in front of everyone. Again, at my restaurant." I kept my voice even. No yelling, no tears, just truth. "You've had 31 years to stop saying it. You chose not to." Cousin Elaine spoke up. "She's right, Gail. I've heard you say it for years. We all have. It was never funny." Uncle Richard, who had flown in from Atlanta, set down his fork. "Terrence, your daughter owns this place? And you're sitting here calling her a mistake?" My father opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Devin tried. "Come on, Viv, you know they don't actually mean…" "Don't, Devin." I looked at him steadily. "You laughed. Every single time you laughed. You never once told them to stop. Not once in 31 years. He looked away. I picked up my bag. "I'm not telling you this to ruin your dinner. I'm telling you because I spent my whole life believing I was less than everyone at this table. And I finally know that isn't true. It never was." I looked at my parents one last time. "I don't need you to be proud of me. I stopped needing that a long time ago. But I need you to stop calling me a mistake. Because the only mistake in this family was how you treated the one person who never stopped trying to earn your love." I turned and walked toward the kitchen. My kitchen. Behind me, I heard Elaine say, "You owe her an apology. Both of you." I heard my mother start to cry. I heard chairs shifting, voices rising, not at me, but at my parents. The family dinner they'd orchestrated for 30 years was unraveling, and this time, I wasn't the one being humiliated. Carmen was waiting in the kitchen. She'd been watching through the service window. "You okay?" she asked. I exhaled. My hands were shaking, but something in my chest felt lighter than it had in years. "Yeah, I think I really am." She squeezed my shoulder. "Your grandmother would have been proud of this moment." "I know. I think that's why I could do it." We stood there for a minute, listening to the muffled sounds of a family reckoning happening on the other side of the wall. Then I tied on my apron and went back to work. There were still tables to serve, still guests who deserved a beautiful meal. My restaurant didn't stop running just because my family finally heard the truth. That was 5 weeks ago. The fallout was immediate. My mother called 11 times in 3 days. I answered on the 4th day. She was quieter than I'd ever heard her. She said, "I didn't realize how much it hurt you. I thought you knew we were joking." "It was never a joke to me, Mom. Not once." She didn't argue. She just said, "I'm sorry, Vivian." And then she was quiet for a long time, and I could tell she was crying. And for the first time, the tears sounded real. My father sent a letter. Handwritten, which surprised me. Dad's not a letter writer. He said he'd been thinking about what Uncle Richard said. He wrote, "I've been calling you that word since you were a child. I told myself it was humor. It wasn't. It was cruel, and I have no excuse. You built something incredible, and I never once told you I was proud. I am, and I'm ashamed it took this for me to say it." That letter sits in my desk drawer. Some days I read it. Some days I can't. Devin texted me a week later. "I should have stood up for you. I didn't. I'm sorry." Short, simple, more than he'd ever given me before. We're not okay yet, my family and I. We may never be what I once wished we could be. But we're having honest conversations for the first time, and honest is a start. I've told them the conditions. No more names, no more rankings, no more treating Devin's achievements like headlines and mine like footnotes. If they can respect that, we can try. Bellamy's is thriving. We're booked solid through the spring. Carmen and I are discussing a second location. My staff feels like the family I always wanted, people who show up, who care, who see me for what I actually am instead of what I was labeled. I wake up every morning in a small apartment above the restaurant. I can hear the kitchen starting up below me. I smell coffee and bread and possibility. And I think about the girl who sat at table 14 for 30 years, swallowing a word that was never hers to carry. She's not sitting anymore. She's standing. In her own place. On her own terms. If you're watching this and someone in your life has given you a name you didn't earn, a label that made you feel small or broken or less than, I want you to hear this. You are not the name they gave you. You are not the role they assigned you. You are not a mistake, an accident, or an afterthought. You are a person who deserves to take up space, to be seen, and to build something beautiful with the life you were given. Don't wait for them to see your worth. Go build something that proves it, not to them, but to yourself. That's the only audience that matters. Thank you for staying with me until the end. If this story touched you, please like and subscribe. Have you ever turned a painful label into something powerful? I'd love to hear your story. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, remember, you were never the mistake. They were. And now you know it.